All right, hello again. I'm Jay Haley, and this video is for Palmore Institute's senior level speaking class week 3, and this is part 2. In this video, I'll be showing you a video of a conversation I had with Kim Jin, one of our teachers, and we'll be doing the task that's on page 19 of your textbook. As you listen to it, you can use this as a listening activity, but listen to what we say each other. And then after the conversation, I'll come back and I'll give you a little feedback on what we said. Okay, enjoy the video. Yes, okay. Yeah, so joining me now is one of my co-workers at Palmore, Kim Jin. And if you're a student at Palmore, I'm sure you've met Kim before. If you're not, here he is. So Kim, how you doing?
I'm fine. Pretty much bored at home.
Yeah, I know.
I want to get out, but we have to follow the stay home policy.
Yeah.
I hope everyone's fine. I hope everyone's okay and you're staying safe. And I hope to see you guys soon in the future. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, anyway, I just wanted to give you a little question about learning English and get your reaction about what's being said. So this question comes from page 19 of the text, and it's where Iris says that Richard says he's bad at learning languages. This is just an excuse. Anyone can learn a new language. You just have to work hard. So what do you think about that?
I kind of agree. Yeah, I kind of agree and disagree. I mean, like they said, that anyone can learn a language. I think that it's true. Work hard, it really depends on each person. Some people work hard, if they really want to learn the language, but I think it's your own choice. But I think anyone can learn a language. I mean, from my own experience, certainly coming to Japan, I found that if I learned the local language, life was just much easier because, we had this misconception. Oh, yes, everybody can speak Japanese. They studied 6 years in school, 3 years in junior high school and 3 years in high school. But actually, when I first came to Japan, and it was completely different, I asked questions in English and people were just afraid and they just said, no, I don't speak English. Yeah. So, certainly I found that, the first week it was quite hard. And you may encounter some people who are willing to speak English, but a lot of people were just too shy and said, no, I don't speak English, but they could understand, but they'd always reply back in Japanese. Yeah. So I think, from my own experience, if you do learn the local language of any place you go, not only English, but any other country that you go to, it would help you so much in your life, in daily life. You find things are easier to communicate with other people. You learn local expressions. You sound friendlier to the local people if you learn the language. And at first, not myself because I look Japanese, but certainly people from, Caucasians and other foreigners. Yeah. I think if they spoke Japanese, at first the Japanese are surprised, but they feel happier that you learn the local language and they probably, especially in Osaka, they feel more talkative to you because,
that's true.
Speaks Japanese and they feel friendlier. So I think for me, I think that's why learning a language in the place that you are will help you a lot. Also, you make a lot of new friends. When you make a lot of new friends, you can practice more with the language. Your friends will help you in many difficult situations. I've had many tough times, going to the ward office or official government offices. But if I brought my Japanese friend with me, they'll help with translations and other things. And even daily things like going to the supermarket. If you're buying food, like I couldn't read the kanji for salt or sugar. Yeah. So they look the same from a plastic bag. So, but again, yeah, just friends will help you in many ways. And then, of course, you also with friends you build everlasting friendships. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I believe it will help you. I mean, the harder you try, I mean, certainly the harder you study, the easier it becomes for you to communicate with many people in many different situations. You know.
Yeah, no, that is true. Yeah, and I had the same problem. I think it was buying. I didn't know if it was raw eggs or boiled eggs, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Wow, it is very useful to have some help and the language.
That's right.
This class is for senior level, and so what advice would you have for anyone who's learned English to a pretty good level but want to keep improving?
Yeah.
Do you have any advice? Yeah.
Well, the main thing is you've got to practice. You know, if you've learned vocabulary, you've learned expressions. You know, the most important thing is to use those skills or to use the vocabulary that you learned to make opportunities for yourself to talk to English speakers. Um, I mean, that's why like coming to Japan. You know, everywhere I go outside, if I go to the supermarket or catch public transportation, there's many opportunities for me to speak in Japanese. So it helped
Yeah.
to improve my Japanese skills. So again, for English learners, I mean, find opportunities for yourself to interact with. It doesn't have to be native English speakers. Even if you see foreigners, there's a chance they probably would speak English. And
Yeah, that's
so,
really true.
I mean, for Japanese people, I mean, if you see someone in Sannomi or Umeda and they seem to be lost and they're holding a map or they seem to be confused, I think if you just said, do you need any help or can I help you? And I'm sure they'll be very happy. I mean, in my situation, the same thing when I came to Japan over 20 years ago. I mean, we didn't have smartphones and I held a
Yeah,
map and standing in the middle of
yeah.
Umeda
Mm.
and a Japanese businessman came up to me and said, are you okay? And I said, oh, you speak English because I had asked 5 or 6 people, and everybody just said, no, I don't speak English. And the Japanese man came up to me and said, do you need help? Are you okay? And I felt I felt relief and happy that actually someone came and spoke to me. So I think to any English learner that, find opportunities for yourself
Yeah.
to ask people if they need assistance. If they don't need assistance, they say, oh, no, I'm okay, thank you. But, it's not a major problem. So certainly find opportunities. And it is hard. People will say, where can I meet foreigners? And, I mean, now with the current situation, I mean, it's difficult. There's hardly any tourists, but I mean, certainly
Yeah.
if you go to areas like in Kyoto and major cities, and there are a lot of tourists in the city, and so certainly find that opportunity.
Yeah,
The
they
main
really need,
is
some help
practice.
sometimes.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Also, I
hopefully
mean,
tourists will be
yeah,
back
sorry,
soon.
yeah,
Sorry.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I mean, to improve, other things, you can watch English media on TV or internet, to reinforce your listening skills and comprehension. Yeah. So there's many ways, So I mean, similar to what they say, it's never hard to learn a language. So you just have to practice hard.
Good advice. Okay, well, thanks a lot. Thanks for joining me for this, Kim. I appreciate the advice and stay well. And hopefully, we'll be seeing all you guys back at Palmore soon. But yeah, thanks again and stay well.
Yep, you too.
Yeah,
Okay, take it easy,
bye.
guys. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Okay, now let me give you a little feedback on what we said. First, it depends.
Anyone can learn a language. I think that it's true. Work hard. It really depends on each person. Some people work hard, if they
Yeah.
really want to learn the language, but I think it's your own choice. But
In this video, Kim said, it depends on each person. I just wanted to take a moment to talk about it depends versus case by case. You know, these two things both mean the same, and they both are real English. However, I find my students in Japan tend to overuse case by case. And most native speakers actually use it depends more often. So, in the future, try to use it depends more. From my experience.
I think anyone can learn a language. I mean, from my own experience, I mean, certainly coming to Japan, I found that if I learned the local language, I mean, life was just much easier.
Oh. Now, Kim is introducing his story here with this phrase, from my experience. Now, again, this is a really good way to introduce your opinion. Again, my students will often use a phrase like, in my opinion, or I believe. No problem with these phrases, they're great. However, sometimes you want a little more variety, and this is a great way to introduce your opinion that's based on your experience. So please use from my experience. Give it a try. Next, misconception.
Because, we had this misconception, oh, yes, everybody can speak Japanese. They studied 6 years in school, 3 years in junior high school and 3 years in high school.
And just a vocabulary word, but it's a good one. A misconception is when people have a belief, but it's not correct. Okay? It's often a common belief that people think, but it's just not correct. Therefore, misconception. The ward office.
I've had many tough times, going to the ward office or official government offices, but if I brought my Japanese friend with me, they would help with translations and other things. And
this is a good one. A ward is a word that people often don't know how to say in English. If you live in a big city in Japan, there's a good chance you might live in a ward, Chuo ward or Kita ward, or one of the wards in your city. Big cities in Japan, Tokyo, will have 23 wards, and in each ward there will probably be a ward office. It's the government office where you have to go take care of stuff. Not my favorite place to visit. It usually takes a long time and you got to wait on a lot of lines. But that office is called a ward office.
Help you. I mean, the harder you try, certainly the harder you study, the easier it becomes for you to communicate with many people in many different situations.
Okay, I love this phrase. The harder you study, the easier it becomes to. This is the famous the phrase. It's one of those phrases that students often understand when they read it or when they hear it, but they just don't use it often enough. It's a little bit of a tricky phrase to use when speaking in English. So it's a good chance to get a little extra practice. Okay. You take a look at this slide. I've given two examples. One is a very famous short one, the bigger the better. Okay, it's a short version of saying the bigger it is, the better it is. And another one from my own experience, the warmer it gets, the more I want to go outside. Now, in other words, it's saying as one thing is increasing, the second half of the sentence is also increasing at the same time. In these two examples, there's something which, as it's getting bigger, it is getting better. I don't know. It might be a steak or a pizza, a food you like. Similarly, in the second example, as things are getting warmer, it's spring, and even though today is kind of a little cold, it's generally getting warmer. Winter is long done. It's getting warmer, and so my desire to go outside is getting higher and higher. I hopefully will be able to get outside more often in the not too distant future. Below in the blue box are two examples that you can try. Think of your own ending for these sentences. The more I exercise, what's your ending? And the longer I live, again, what is your ending to those sentences? You can write down your ideas, send me your ideas in an email, or when classes start again, I'll be happy to check what you say about these two things. But keep practicing this type of sentence. Become fluent with it. Once you do, you'll be able to use it a lot more, and it's a great sentence for describing any time one thing is going up and another thing is going up together along with it. Great sentence to have in your arsenal. All right, last point, where Kim says, I had asked 5 or 6 people before I found success.
Standing in the middle of the meadow, and a Japanese businessman came up to me and said, are you okay? And I said, oh, you speak English? Because I had asked 5 or 6 people, and everybody just said, no, I don't speak English. And
great example of our old friend, the past perfect tense. This is one of those tenses that people don't like so much. It can be kind of hard to use, but this example here is a really good example. He's saying that eventually he found someone, but before he found someone to help him, he asked 5 or 6 people prior to that. So in his story, he asked the 5 or 6 people first and then found success. He had asked 5 or 6 people. This can be a tricky grammar point, and again, this is one that's worth practicing. It's a point students will often ask about. This example is really a good example of how to use it. So just keep this sentence in mind, just the way he said it, because it's a perfect one to remember, and in the future, it will remind you of how to use this type of grammar. Okay, so that's it for this week. Thank you very much for joining me again. And next week, we'll be making a new video about unit number 4. Okay. Thanks again, and I hope to see you in the near future. Take care, everyone, and see you.